Alright, shalom to the Israelite community. Alright, Hebrews, this is what I want to ask everybody is how long can everybody hold on to the Israelite title that didn't break the covenant for Egyptian religion? Now that caused the transatlantic slave trade. And we know during the Babylonian wars that the covenant was broken for Egyptian religion. Now check this out. There's a lot of people with the Israelite title, but they don't have the curses on them. Why is that? You know, the curses are outlined in Deuteronomy when the Israelites left Egypt and Prophet Moses got the law from the Creator Yah. And you know, we know it's a Creator Yah, but for the simple reason is that things happen to a certain group of people that match the curses identical. Now, there's a lot of people that got the Israelite title, but they don't have the problems and the curses on them that the people do that broke the covenant for Egyptian religion and ran into Africa. You know, there's all kind of peoples with the Israelite title. You got you got Arab tribes with the Israelite title, and why come they ain't in captivity with curses on them? You know, you got the Asians, Chinese. You got the Chinese Jews with the Israelite title and so forth. Why they don't have the curses on them? Why they don't have the curses on them that's spoken about in the book of Deuteronomy, man? It's like they making the Israelite history a lie because they don't have the curses on them. How did they escape the curses once the covenant was broken? You know, you got European Jews, they don't have the curses on them that's supposed to be on them since the covenant was broken during the Babylonian wars. Man, the Israelites did some terrible things and were a terrible people that led up to the covenant being broken. Man, they was robbers, they was crooks, that they was thieves, and they stole, and they was murderous. Man, they did a whole bunch of evil, wicked stuff, man, against the covenant and against the law that Prophet Moses gave them. You know, so, you know, why all these other people's, man, life are not like the covenant breakers? You know, you got all kind of African African tribes, African Jews and so forth. Why come they heritage ain't like the curses? And then how did they get to stay in Africa and continue a Israelite heritage without the problems on them for not being in the land, not being in the promised land, and doing the covenant that Prophet Moses gave us? You know, you got a lot of people dispersed, man, throughout the earth, man, claiming the Israelite heritage. And then why they heritage ain't blotted out and so forth. You know, I didn't explain this in quite a few videos, man. You got a lot of African tribes or peoples that's claiming the Israelite heritage, but they don't have the curses on them. Why is that? Why is that? You got folks from India claiming the Israelite title, and they don't have the curses on them. And the curses are outlined. I'm going to read some of them. You know, I'm going to read some of them. Why come they don't have the curses on them? Why they don't have the curses on them? You know, how long can everybody hold on to the Israelite title that didn't break covenant for Egyptian religion? That's what it's going to go back to. That how do you get to be an Israelite and you didn't break the covenant during the Babylonian wars and then have the plagues on you? How did you escape? How did you escape? And it's millions of folks with the Israelite title and been had it. How about the people from the transatlantic slave trade? Got the curses on them. We come from the land that the Israelites broke the covenant and ran into, which is Africa. We went in there by the way of Egypt. And then, we were shipped to Egypt on ships. And then we had our whole heritage blotted out. Our whole heritage was blotted out. They called us Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and all these old titles. All kind of titles was given to our ancestors since the transatlantic slave trade. And why all these other folks, don't have these wicked titles and so forth on them, and how they get to escape. How they get to escape the curses that Prophet Moses said would be on the Israelites. How they get to escape this. Let's read some of them. When we left Egypt with Prophet Moses, and then he got the law from the Creator, and just before we got into the land, that he explicitly told us, hey y'all, if y'all don't do right, and you go in the land, and you start worshiping other gods, and you forget and break this covenant that I'm giving you, which is your protection, your life, then certain things are going to happen to you and that you can't escape it. And one was being driven off the land. And the other was losing your heritage and being taken in a slavery. And that you wouldn't be able to get out that slavery, until Almighty Yah freed you. So how did all these other peoples that got the Israelite title not go through that or have a history that's identical to the curses that Prophet Moses said would be on the Israelites? It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, look. This is Deuteronomy 28. Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall ye be in the country. Cursed shall you be in your comings, and cursed shall you be in your goings. The Elohim will let loose against you calamity, panic, frustration, and all the enterprise you undertake, so that you shall be utterly wiped out because of your evil doings and forsaking me. The Elohim will make pestilence cling to you, unto you has been put to an end to you in the land that you are entering to possess. The Elohim will strike you with consumption, fever, inflammation, and scorching heat, and drought, with blight and mildew, and they shall hound you until you perish. The Elohim will put you to rout before your enemies. You shall march out against them by a single road, but flee from them by many roads, and you shall become a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. We are a horror, They look at us and we are a joke, and they make fun of us, and we not presented right with the earth. All we do is entertainment, dance, laugh, play ball, and sing, and that how we are taken as a joke, and we don't have nobody representing us at the UN that's specifically for our ethnic group in our land. We don't have any of that. The Elohim will strike you with the Egyptian inflammation, and with hemorrhoids, boils, boiling scars, and itch, from which you shall never recover. The Elohim will strike you with madness, blindness, and dismay. You shall grope at noonday as a blind gropeth in darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ventures, but you shall be constantly abused and robbed, with none to give help. If you pay the bride a price for a wife, another man shall enjoy her. If you build a house, you shall not live in it. You know what I'm saying? And that happened during the transatlantic slave trade, how we build the houses for the slave owners, the only people on the face of the earth to get done like that, and we couldn't live in them, and we had to live in the fields and huts and all kind of raggedy dwelling places. Look, your sons and daughters shall be delivered to another people while ye look on, and your eyes shall strain for them constantly, but you shall be helpless. Now, we know that happened during the transatlantic slave trade, and we the only people on the face of the earth meant to go through something like that. A people you do not know shall eat up the produce of your soil, and all your gains. Ye shall be a bruise and downtrodden continually. Men until you are driven mad by what your eyes behold. Man, we know that happened during the transatlantic slave trade on them plantations. The Elohim will drive you, and the king you have set over you, to a nation unknown to you or your fathers, where you shall serve other gods of wood and stone. Man, we know that happened in Africa, and plus in the captivity where we was given the gods of wood and stone. Christianity, with that cross made of wood, and in the buildings, the stone buildings that they had us false worshiping up in. You shall be a consternation, a proverb, and a byword among all the people to which Elohim will drive you. And we know that's so because they call us Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and all them old wicked titles that they put on us. We the only people on the face of the earth that done got a whole bunch of names attached to us. Man, they got history written in Negroes. Man, they got history written in Black America, Afro American, because the Afro back in the 60s and 70s, and then African American, and we know the real African Americans are the Hamites, the Africans that had left Africa and then came to America. Those are the real African Americans, and they try to group us in with them so we can never come back, man, into the knowledge, man, of our true identity. Look, daughters, they shall not remain with you, but they shall go into captivity. The stranger in your midst shall rise above you higher and higher, while ye sink lower and lower. He shall be your creditor, but you shall not be his. He shall be the head, and you the tail. Now, we know that's a fact that every foreigner that then came into our community and rose above us higher and higher, and then prospered more than we have, and we've been here a long time. But how strangers from other nations come in among us, and they always come to our community first, and then they get above us. Now, we done witnessed this a whole bunch of times. We the only people on the face of the earth getting done like that. Man, the only people on the face of the earth getting done like that. All these curses shall befall you. They shall pursue you and overtake you until you are wiped out, because you did not heed the Elohim your Yah, and keep his commandments and his laws that he enjoined upon you. They shall serve as a sign and proof against you and your offsprings for all time, because you would not serve the Elohim your Yah in joy and gladness. For the abundance of everything ye shall have to serve in hunger and thirst, naked and lacking everything. The enemies whom the Elohim will let loose against you, he will put an iron yoke upon your neck until he has wiped you out. And we know we the only people on the face of the earth that iron yoke symbolized something that happened to us during the transatlantic slave trade, and they still got chains and yokes around that was from that era. The Elohim will bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth, which swoop down like the eagle, a nation whose language you do not understand, a ruthless nation that will show the old no regard and the young no mercy. Man, we know that happened to us. It's mean there ain't nobody on the face of the earth that can fit these curses but us. If you fail to observe faithfully all the terms of this teachings that are written in this book, to reverence this honor and awesome name, the Elohim your Yah, the Elohim will inflict extraordinary plagues upon you and your offspring, strange and lasting plagues, malignant and chronic diseases. He will bring you back on you, and he will bring back up on you all the sickness of Egypt that you dread, so that they shall cling to you. Moreover, the Elohim will bring upon you all the other diseases and plagues that are not mentioned in this book of teachings until you are wiped out. You shall be left a scattered few, after having been as numerous as the stars in the skies, because you did not heed the command of the Elohim your Yah. And as the Elohim once delighted in making you prosperous and many, so will the Elohim now delight in causing you to perish and wiping you out. You shall be torn from the land that you are about to enter and possess. The Elohim will scatter you among all the peoples from the one end of the earth to the other, and there you shall serve other gods, wood and stone, whom neither you nor your ancestors have experienced. Now, we know that that's a fact, that happened to us, because the Israelites right now today, the vast majority, you cannot tell them anything, about Christianity and how they grit their teeth when you talk about Christianity, because they think that it was something that was given to us from long time ago, and that's false. That every Israelite in captivity or that's in America got Christianity from slavery as an origin, and that how it was put on us by whip, and Israelites can't fathom that, and they think that, oh man, it's right, it's holy what I'm doing, because my mama and my daddy did it, and it's got to be right. Well, your mama and daddy didn't know, and they suffer from the curses too, and the curses was put on them too, to where they had to worship false gods and so forth. It's bitter, and some of you just don't want to accept it, and you turn your head the other way, and you grit your teeth and puff your jaws out. But it don't change the fact that Almighty Yah said that we'll be given a strange God, and we know that no Israelites come from Africa, not one, believing in Christianity or a demigod that come die for our sins, and how that's something that was given to us by whip during the transatlantic slave trade. But if you tell an Israelite that, man, that they go to church on Sunday and listen to all them hooping, hollering lies, that they gonna think that you're wrong. But it's right here in the Tanakh. It's right here in the Tanakh, and you're not going to be able to change that no matter how you feel. You're not going to be able to change the curses that was put on us. You can acknowledge it and try to do better and change your ways, or you can stay blind and worship the God that was given to our ancestors during oppression in the slavery days. All right. And ye shall find no peace, nor shall your foot find a place to rest. The Elohim will give you there an anguished heart and eyes that pain, and despondent spirit. The life you face shall be precarious. You shall be in terror night and day, with no assurance of survival. Many of them was doing transatlantic slave trade. We're doing better now, but we know that that's the way it was. In the morning you shall say, if only it was evening. And in the evening you shall say, if only it was morning, because of what your heart shall dread and your eyes shall see. And we know that we experienced that whip, man, like no other. Look, perchance there is among you some man and woman, or some clan or tribe, whose heart is even now turning away from the Elohim your Yah to go and worship the gods of these nations. Perchance there is among you a stalk sprouting poison weed and wormwood. When such as one hears the words of these sanctions, he may fancy himself immune, thinking, I shall be safe, though I follow my own willful heart. So the utter ruin of the moist and dry life, the Elohim will never give him. Rather will the Elohim anger and passion rage against that man, till every sanction recorded in this book comes down upon him, and the Elohim blots out his name from under heaven. Now that's what happened to us. That's what happened to us. Our name was blotted out during the transatlantic slave trade. Elohim will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for misfortune in accordance with all the sanctions of the covenant recorded in this book. So we know that, you know what I'm saying, that we got the curses. People from the transatlantic slave trade fit all those curses. So why all those folks that I just shown don't have curses on them or wasn't subjected to those curses? Now, I'm sure that they experienced some prejudice in the lands that they was in because they indigenous peoples, the stock that they're from, probably look at them differently. Here they go worshiping men, men a faith that they can trace to invaders coming to their land doing trade. So they gonna experience a little hostility to people that's under the Israelite title in those strange lands. Now let's go to the act that caused all this stuff. Now, why these folks during the Babylonian Wars, which kind of like was a little while back in history, but it's recorded in the Tanakh. Why come they didn't go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, which caused all those curses? You know, it caused all the curses that we Israelites are up under now. Then why did the peoples that claimed the Israelite title didn't go through any of this stuff? And they not the ones that broke covenant with Almighty Yah, saying that they gonna do. Man, during the Babylonian Wars, where we was chased out the land, and then Prophet Jeremiah fell up on us going into Africa, Egypt. And then he told us to come back to the promised land. And guess what we did? And this what made the curses come down on us. And there was no escape. Zero chance of escaping is that we told Prophet Jeremiah to go to the Creator and ask him what we should do, knowing that we should have stayed on the promised land. And then Prophet Jeremiah go ask the Creator what, he want to tell us. And then when Prophet Jeremiah come back telling us what to do to go back to the land, that we said, no, that Almighty Yah didn't say that, and that it's cool to go into Africa, Egypt, to do the Egyptian religion. Now, that's why come we the only people on the face of the earth that's been taken from this land right here and then taken to a slavery all over in our history is identical to the curses. Now, why come these folks, you know what I'm saying, ain't suffering from that? How long is they going to be able to hold on to the Israelite title? They only going to be able to hold on to it until we wake up to what we did and what happened, and then we can enforce our history, you know what I'm saying, upon them, the truth upon them. That's what we got to do. All right, let's go to some of this. All right, this is during the Babylonian Wars. Look, then all the army officers with Johan, the son of Kerah, Jezaniah, son of Hoshea, and all the rest of the people, great and small, approached the prophet Jeremiah and said, grant our plea and pray for us to the Elohim your Yah, for all this remain. For we remain but a few out of many. As you can see, let the Elohim your Yah tell us where we should go and what we should do. The prophet Jeremiah answered them, agreed, I will pray to the Elohim your Yah as you request, and I will tell you whatever he responds the Elohim gives for you. I will withhold nothing from you. Whereupon they said to Jeremiah, let the Elohim be a true and faithful witness against us. We swear that we will do exactly as the Elohim your Yah instructs us through you, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. We will obey the Elohim our Yah to whom we send you, in order that it may go well with us when we obey the Elohim our Yah. Now that's evil what we did right there. Zero chance of escaping curses. Zero chance. I just showed that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. This is everybody, small and great. Look, after 10 days, the word of the Elohim came to Jeremiah, and he called Johan, son of Ker, and all the army officers and the rest of the people. Now he called them. The word came after 10 days. All right. Great and small. And he said to them, "Thus said the Elohim, the Yah of Israel, to whom you sent me to present your supplications before him. If you remain in this land, I will build you and not overthrow. I will plant you and not uproot. For I regret the punishment I have brought upon you. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom ye fear. Do not be afraid of him, declared the Elohim. For I am with you to save you and to rescue you from his hands. I will dispose him to be merciful to you. He shall show you mercy and bring you back to your own land. But if you say, we will not stay in this land, this disobeying the Elohim your Yah, if you say, no, we will go to the land of Egypt, so that we may not see war or hear the sound of the horn, and so that we may not hunger for bread, there we will stay. Then hear the word of the Elohim, O remaining Judah. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel. If you turn your face toward Egypt and you go and sojourn there, the sword that ye fear shall overcome you, and there in the land of Egypt in the famine. Man, we went into the Sahara because guess what? Babylon came into Egypt. Nebuchadnezzar came and took Egypt over for 50 years till the Persians destroyed, and then by that time we was over here in these parts. We was over here in these parts, and these the parts that they took us to the transatlantic slave trade. It took about 275 years to remove all of us from Africa, every last one of us, and we was taken over here, man, to slavery and suffered like just like them curses said. All right. All right, and you know what I'm saying, and then he goes on to say, all right, ye shall become an excretion. Let me see, they shall have no survival, and you shall become an excretion of woe and curses and mockery, and you shall never see this place. The Elohim has spoken against you, O remain of Judah. Do not go to Egypt. Know well then, for I warn you this day that ye were deceitful. And when you sent me to the Elohim, your Yah, saying, pray for us, the Elohim, our Yah, and whether the Elohim, our Yah may say, just tell us and we will do it. I told you today, and you have not obeyed the word of the Elohim your Yah in respect to all that he sent me to tell you. Know well then that ye shall die by the sword. Man, we've been getting ourselves tore up. We've been getting ourselves tore up, man, because of that, you know, and that we told the prophet Jeremiah that the Almighty Yah didn't say don't go to Egypt. Look, when Jeremiah had finished speaking to all these words to the people, all the words the Elohim their Yah, which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to them, Azariah son of Hoshea and Johan son of Ker, and all the arrogant men said to Jeremiah, you are lying. The Elohim our Yah did not send you to say, don't go to Egypt and sojourn there. And Baruch the son of Ner, who incite you against us, so that we will be delivered into the hands of the Chaldeans to be killed and to be exiled. Man, the people went pure mad when we told the prophet Jeremiah after he went to Almighty Yah to see what we should do. And then we said, no, he didn't say that. And that it's okay to go into Egypt. I just did a video showing that Almighty Yah told us do not walk in the ways of the Egyptians. And don't do the ways of the Canaanites. And we turned around and did just that. So, how in the world, all these peoples, they got the Israelite title, Why come they ain't in slavery? Why come they ain't in the land and don't have no power and being abused and so forth like our people is going through? Why come we don't have a history? Why come they don't have a history like the wicked Israelites that rob, steal, and do each other wrong? We only do each other wrong. We don't do the other folks wrong and how we do each other wrong. Why come they don't have a history like that? Why come them Africans that's claiming the Israelite heritage, why come they don't have the curses on them and then live like the Israelites live in the Tanakh history? Man, that we wasn't right with each other and that how we ain't been right with each other since Moses was around. How these folks ain't got no curses on them? How they got the Israelite title but don't have curses on them? It's it's self-explanatory that when we broke the covenant, it was strangers in the land that didn't go into Africa with us, and they kept the Israelite title and put it on themselves, and then went around the world, men and made other folks Israelites in the lands that they went to, doing trade and so forth. You know, that's why come is folks with Israelite titles everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And look here, Hornicus instituted forced conversion on the Edomites to Judaism. And they become, Israelites. Them ones that was in Arabia, and they are called Sephardim men today. And then they went to Spain when Herod Edomite temple was destroyed, and then Aaron Lopez, the one that handled the transatlantic slave trade, was one of them. And that how that they knew who we were in Africa, because they know that we ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and how they scholars never lost sight of that, and they didn't write about that. That's why come it's only in the Tanakh. It's only in the Tanakh, and then they call it the Old Testament to keep you away from it. And then how did they created a new book called the New Testament, who are not the people of the Tanakh history and so forth, and how they are the settlers that took on our heritage and so forth. And then that's why all the other peoples with Israelite titles come from them going all over the earth and so forth. So, I ask, how can how long can everybody hold on to the Israelite title that didn't break covenant for Egyptian religion? See, this is what we have to stress, and this is what we have to show, that if you didn't go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion and then get enslaved and have all them curses on you, that chances are that you're going to be the strangers that kept our heritage when we ran off. It's plain and simple as that.